Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's topic of apathy, burnout, and vacancies, presented to you by Higher Ed Consultant by Rosappa Global. I'm Carla Fraser from Rosappa Global, and today we're going to dive into common topics that are reverberating in the atmosphere right now in higher education, which is apathy, really lack of enthusiasm, the sense of unappreciation, the fact that we just don't feel like being in some of our positions in the higher ed space. And this is showing up particularly in student affairs, and it's showing up globally that student affairs folks have a level of apathy that's happening. They just don't feel like putting in the effort that they have put in before. That above and beyond is just not happening. That I'm overworked is really happening. And so that then leads to burnout. And being burnt out in the field is very common right now. Coming out of the pandemic, folks did so much at home, but now you're going back into and being on the campuses. There were staff that were laid off, so you're picking up extra work. You are filling in for vacancies that have happened that were never filled, or vacancies that are coming open. So vacancies are the other challenge that's happening. There's been a significant amount of vacancies that have happened across higher ed in North America and Europe, some of it happening in other places in the world. So there's this risk of vacancies not being filled. Now, there's also some back reasons for that. Some of that's funding, some of that's revenue. I've talked about that in another conversation where I talked about trends in higher education. But these are also trends, so apathy, burnout, and vacancies are really creating unique challenges. And speaking in the student affairs side, it's impacting the student experience. When you have staff that has a level of apathy and they're not giving their whole sense to their position, that quietly quitting that we've heard about, or it creates a sense for our students not being given full service. And that can impact the experiential learning, that can impact the learning, that can, if it's happening on the academic side, it impacts the curriculum and what's being taught and how it's being taught. Now, while my focus is on the student-facing side, I do know that there's pieces that happen over on the academic side as well, and I just wanted to acknowledge that. So the apathy and burnout has two parts. One, it's on the staff member, how they're feeling and communicating what's happening to them. But it's also incumbent on the supervisors and leaders of units to realize what's also happening. That is, if you have vacancies and you're divvying up the work from the vacant position to additional staff members, and not providing them accurate compensation, you're not providing additional support, you're not providing them a sense of timelines, you're not being very specific, you've just added to their work and not giving them the recognition or other things that are needed to support the extra workload. It's really important that both sides of the coin sit down and have heart-to-heart conversations and prioritize what is needed. So you don't have staff members that have that level of apathy. You should be able to recognize some of those things. And if you don't, we should be training you to, the physical signs of apathy and burnout can be there. It's stress, it's tired, it's frustration, it's well-being, it's someone who is constantly getting sick because their immune system's worn down. Those are all things that happen because of stress, and that stress is typically from some level of burnout. And then you couple the fact that I'm not energetic enough to be at full capacity. I'm doing, or I choose to do the bare minimum sometimes. Let's be realistic. What are we doing to prevent this? We see it happening. And sometimes you're going to say, well, I can't do anything, it's above me. As a supervisor, as a leader, there's always something you can do. And a good part of that something is acknowledging it, is having the conversations. It's looking and working with your team to find even small solutions with them to be able to navigate these challenges. There's not a scenario where there's nothing you can do about apathy, burnout, or vacancies. There's always something that you can do, even at the small end. And the smallest thing you can do is acknowledge it. The next smallest thing you can do is work with the team to find ways to solve it. Some of that may be prioritization. Some of that could be whatever innovative ideas the teams come up with, and use that to solve the situation, even temporarily. So I think as organizations, you have to find internal resources and, where necessary, sometimes external resources to address these issues. I've been writing about these issues most recently, specifically wrote an article on apathy and burnout and how to build resilience in the international higher ed space, international student affairs space. And then prior to that, I wrote an article about the risk of vacancies, and especially when vacancies go long and you not fill them, what is that doing to the staff? What is that doing to retention? What are you saying as an internal message to your current staff about filling that vacancy? So I think it's important for us to get to the place where we're finding solutions for these things. And part of the solution is the preventative method, because once apathy happens, it can lead to burnout, and then it can lead to vacancies, and it can create a cycle. And that's not what we want. So we need to get to this preventative stage of working with our teams to prevent that, recognizing what's happening, when it's happening, having strategies in place. If you have folks who are saying, you know what, I think I'm done, I think this position's not good for me anymore, this is not a good fit, I feel overworked, listen to the key and telltale signs that folks are saying. In some cases, they will never say, and then you'll get their resignation one day. But I would say that staff that is very passionate, in many cases, will drop those hints, and you need to be listening. I'm just be honest. You need to be listening and seeing what you can do to be able to minimize this. So one of the things I really want to touch on are, just my perspective on things you can do to be in the preventative space. One is for when it comes to apathy and burnout. I think it's important for us to think about some key measures that we can put in place to avoid apathy and burnout and to address issues of vacancy. And so let me start with apathy and burnout first. I think one of the things is for the staff member to feel comfortable and they're in a safe environment and safe space to be able to address their supervisors. And I need supervisors, managers, leaders to listen, and for them to start to find ways to value their staff members who are expressing concerns, to express appreciation, to provide opportunities for growth and development. When it comes to burnout, is being able to recognize the stress and the stressors, the time of year that stressors happen, and have counteractive measures in place. For example, as a student affairs practitioner and professional, August is a stressor. The beginning of the school year is a stressor. The end of the school year may be stressors. The change between semesters or trimesters may be stressors. So being able to have preventative, supportive methods and ways to prioritize, to create better timelines, set in organizational priorities at those times of years, end of budget cycles, help your staff members feel that they can go through this and they can navigate this easier than in years past, or easier in general, I think is important. When it comes down to vacancies, it is important to have strategies. If you know that this is hard to fill, then maybe you want to look at an interim position to fill it until you can really come up with a full strategy to fill it permanently. If it's a vacancy that's been open for a long time and you're not getting someone who can fill it permanently, again, look at an interim. Look at opportunities. Maybe it is time to realign what positions look like in the office, redefine them, sit down and have those conversations. If you're going to divvy up that position between the other staff members, then make sure that you are promoting people, you are compensating people for the extra tasks and responsibilities they're taking on, so they're feeling appreciated, so they don't get to the space of apathy or burnout because you're giving them additional work and not recognizing their skill or talent in the appropriate ways to take on these additional responsibilities. Organizationally, as a leader or a department head, you should be asking for the resources you need to fill your vacancies, asking for the resources to create new positions in order to alleviate burnout and some of the changes that have happened and the shifts that have happened in higher ed, that has created a different sense of workspace and work skills. Organizations need, while I understand that everyone wants to go bring everyone back to the office, creating the flexible schedules, creating the hybrid schedules, creating spaces that will allow staff to feel that they are valued is so important. Creating funding for recruitment and recruitment processes. You can't recruit on a shoestring budget, which is often what is happening. So I think there's a lot of different things that need to happen. With vacancies, sometimes you're losing implicit institutional knowledge. And so it's important to fill those positions. You're not going to gain the knowledge back, but having someone in that position where knowledge can be transferred, I think is good. Where new insight can come in is good, innovation. And so I really want to encourage my colleagues, my counterparts, where you have influence and affluence to create preventative methods for burnout, for apathy with your staff, with your teams, please do so. It will help reduce the amount of vacancies that you have. It will increase retention. It will decrease the level of apathy that's happening. Going to the buzzword that's been used as quietly quitting, you're quietly resigning, and then it just happens. We need to leadership and supervisory managerial roles to be able to say, look, I see you, I value you, I'm going to do what it takes to retain you. But at the end of the day, if you've done everything and in cooperation with the person you're trying to retain and they still leave, then you can easily say, okay, I did do my best. But if you're doing nothing, then the cycle will perpetuate itself. And I don't think that's what we want. And I think we're seeing some of that in higher ed right now. I think we need to really work on it, navigate it. It's not happening everywhere, but it is happening. And folks are walking away because of a variety of things, from compensation to work stress to the lack of flexibility in work, you name it. So again, I have 2 articles out there that you can read more of my thoughts on this matter. Higher ed is a place that is near and dear to my heart. Article 1 is Navigating Apathy, Fostering the Resilience in International Student Affairs. Article 2 is Vacancies, the Risky Business at Universities Globally. Both of them can be found in Global Higher Ed publication on medium.com, where I tend to write about higher ed issues, trends, and matters from my perspective. This is Carla Fraser from roseappleglobal.com and Rose Apple Global Higher Ed Consulting.